The map that should never have been found. Before you believe every island shown on a map truly exists, answer one question. What if there was an island off the eastern coast of the United States where every person who ever stepped ashore simply vanished? Not drowned, not murdered, not rescued. They simply disappeared without leaving a single trace. No bodies, no distress calls, no wreckage. Even stranger, several people who supposedly vanished there have later appeared in official government records as if they had never gone missing at all, living different lives under different names with no memory of who they once were. Impossible? That's exactly what historians believed. Until an old naval archive hidden beneath a military warehouse in Norfolk, Virginia, revealed a collection of handwritten journals, damaged navigation charts, and photographs that had been sealed for nearly 80 years. Across every page, one sentence appeared again and again. Once you step onto the island owns your way home. Most people have never heard its name because it was deliberately erased from modern maps after World War II. The few fishermen who still whisper about it simply call it the Island of No Return. According to maritime legends stretching back hundreds of years, this island appears only under very unusual conditions. Dense fog, perfectly calm water, no wind, no birds, no radio signals. Veteran sailors along America's Atlantic coastline have always treated those signs with absolute respect. Whenever the ocean suddenly became silent, they immediately turned their boats around. Not because they feared storms, but because they feared something much older. Long before Europeans arrived in North America, several indigenous coastal tribes passed down warnings about a place where the earth remembers every soul that walks upon it. Those stories described an island surrounded by unnaturally warm water, even during winter, trees that never lost their leaves, ancient stone circles carved with symbols unlike any known Native American language. The elders never claimed monsters lived there. Instead, they believed the island itself was alive. Not alive like an animal, alive like a memory. According to their oral traditions, every visitor unknowingly left behind part of themselves. Most never noticed until it was too late. Historians dismissed these legends as mythology for generations. Then something happened in 1898. The steam cargo vessel Elizabeth Warren departed from Charleston, South Carolina, carrying 12 crew members and medical supplies bound for Boston. The weather forecast predicted clear skies. The captain was experienced. Nothing appeared unusual. Yet 6 days later, another ship discovered the Elizabeth Warren drifting nearly 200 miles off its intended route. All lifeboats remained on board. The cargo was untouched. Dinner still sat on plates inside the mess hall. The engine continued running, but every single crew member had disappeared. Only one object had changed. A navigation chart had been unfolded across the captain's table. Drawn in fresh black ink was an island that appeared on no official map. Next to it, someone had written, "Do not follow the lights." Government investigators searched the Atlantic for months. Nothing. No island, no bodies, no explanation. The incident quietly disappeared from newspapers within weeks. Most people forgot it. The ocean did not. Over the next 40 years, similar disappearances slowly accumulated. Fishing boats, private yachts, scientific expeditions, military patrols. Every case shared one impossible detail. The missing vessels had all briefly entered the exact same area of ocean before vanishing. Officially, authorities blamed weather. Privately, the Navy began keeping records. Those classified documents remained hidden until decades later. One of the officers assigned to review them was Lieutenant Samuel Harper. Unlike many military investigators, Harper wasn't interested in ghost stories. He believed every mystery had a logical explanation: currents, pirates, equipment failure, human error. He intended to prove that the so-called Island of No Return was nothing more than superstition. In April 1947, Harper assembled a small reconnaissance team. 6 experienced sailors, 2 photographers, a geologist, a radio operator, and Professor William Carter, one of America's leading experts in ancient civilizations. Their mission seemed simple: survey the unexplored section of the Atlantic, disprove the legend, return home. The expedition left Norfolk under perfect weather conditions. For the first 2 days, nothing unusual happened. The Atlantic remained calm. Their instruments functioned perfectly. Every evening, Harper recorded detailed notes inside his leather journal. Day 3. Compass stable. Visibility excellent. Crew morale high. No evidence supporting local folklore. Day 4. The first strange event occurred. Every compass on board simultaneously rotated nearly 20 degrees west before correcting itself. The navigator blamed magnetic interference. Harper accepted the explanation. Then, the radios began producing faint voices. Not static, voices. Soft, distant, almost impossible to understand. The radio operator repeatedly adjusted every frequency. Nothing. Yet whenever he disconnected the equipment, the voices continued. One sailor claimed he heard his dead father's voice calling his childhood nickname. Another insisted he heard a woman singing. Professor Carter heard nothing at all. Instead, he noticed the sea had become unnaturally still. Not a single wave touched the ship. The Atlantic looked less like an ocean and more like polished black glass stretching endlessly towards the horizon. Even the wind had disappeared. Hours passed. No seabirds, no dolphins, no fish. Nature itself seemed to have stopped breathing. That evening, the crew spotted lights. Hundreds of them, floating just above the distant water. Tiny golden lights drifting slowly through the fog. Some sailors believed they belonged to another ship. Others assumed they were reflections from stars. Professor Carter quietly whispered, "They're waiting." Harper demanded an explanation. Carter hesitated before removing a folded parchment copied years earlier from an ancient Spanish monastery. It described an expedition from 1562. The final sentence chilled everyone aboard. The lights do not guide sailors toward land. The lights guide the island toward sailors. Nobody slept that night. Around 3 in the morning, one crewman disappeared while standing watch. No splash, no scream, no footprints. His rifle remained leaning against the railing. Fresh coffee still steamed beside it. It was as if he had been erased from existence between 2 heartbeats. Panic spread across the ship. Searchlights illuminated every corner. Nothing. Lieutenant Harper finally ordered the engines to reverse course. The captain pushed the throttle forward. The engines roared.
Smoke poured into the night sky, yet the ship refused to move. The propellers spun at full power. The ocean remained perfectly motionless. Then, very slowly, the fog ahead began opening like enormous curtains. Beyond it, something impossible emerged from the darkness. Not another ship, not rocks, not cliffs, an island, covered by enormous ancient trees, unlike anything recorded in North America. Towering black stone pillars surrounded its shoreline, and standing across the empty beach were dozens of human figures, perfectly still, watching the approaching expedition. None of them moved, none of them waved, yet every single one appeared to be smiling. Lieutenant Harper raised his binoculars, his hand.
The island that steals your memory. No one aboard the expedition spoke for nearly a full minute. The sailor, standing on the beach, looked exactly as he had only moments before disappearing from the ship. His uniform was dry, his face was calm. He wasn't shouting for help. Instead, he simply smiled and slowly lifted one hand, inviting them to come closer. "Turn us around!" one of the crew screamed. The captain pushed the engines even harder. Nothing happened. The propellers spun violently beneath the water, yet the ship drifted toward the island as if an invisible current had wrapped itself around the hull. Lieutenant Samuel Harper stared through his binoculars again. The missing sailor hadn't moved. Neither had the dozens of strangers standing beside him. Professor Carter suddenly grabbed Harper's arm. "Don't look into their eyes." Harper lowered the binoculars. Why? Because according to the oldest Spanish accounts, once they recognize you, the island remembers you. Before Harper could ask another question, a violent sound echoed across the silent ocean. Not thunder, not waves. It sounded like thousands of heavy stone doors grinding open somewhere beneath the island. The water surrounding the ship began to glow with a pale blue light. Every compass spun wildly. The radio burst into life. A calm female voice repeated the same sentence over and over. "Come home." The operator desperately disconnected every cable. The voice continued. He smashed the radio with a wrench. Still, "Come home." Now the voice seemed to be coming from the air itself. Then something even stranger happened. The smiling figures on the beach slowly began walking toward the shoreline. None of them left footprints in the wet sand. Their feet never seemed to sink into the ground. They moved silently, almost gliding, until they stopped only a few yards from the water. One elderly fisherman among them raised an old lantern. Instantly, the fog surrounding the island disappeared. For the first time, the expedition saw the island clearly. It wasn't large, perhaps only a few miles across, yet enormous stone walls surrounded much of its coastline, covered with symbols no one recognized. Ancient staircases climbed steep hills into forests so dense that sunlight barely touched the ground. Massive statues stood among the trees. Each statue had a human body, but no face, only smooth stone where features should be. Professor Carter's hands trembled. "I've seen those before." Harper turned sharply. "Where?" "In sketches copied from an expedition that disappeared in 1724. Harper frowned. "Those sketches were destroyed." Carter looked toward the island. "So I believed." Without warning, the ship struck something beneath the surface. A loud crack echoed through the hull. The vessel stopped moving. The anchor had never been dropped, yet somehow they had arrived. The crew waited.
Nothing happened. No attack, no voices, only silence. Harper made the decision that would haunt history. We go ashore. Half the crew protested, the other half silently prepared their equipment. At sunrise, 2 small boats carried the expedition toward the beach. As Harper's boots touched the sand, an overwhelming feeling washed over him. The fear disappeared. Every worry vanished. The island felt peaceful, warmer than the ocean surrounding it. The air smelled of pine, salt, and flowers that shouldn't have existed on an isolated Atlantic island. Several crew members smiled without realizing it. One whispered, "I don't want to leave." Professor Carter immediately became alarmed. "Don't listen to your thoughts." "What?" "The island doesn't trap your body first, it traps your mind." The team began documenting everything: photographs, rock samples, plant specimens, measurements. At first, nothing appeared supernatural. The trees were ancient but ordinary. The rocks contained unusual minerals. Birds sang overhead. Small streams flowed through the forest. Everything seemed perfectly natural. Too natural. Harper noticed something impossible. Not a single insect existed anywhere. No flies, no mosquitoes, no ants, no spiders. An entire ecosystem without insects. Nature didn't work that way. As they climbed deeper into the island, they reached an enormous circular plaza surrounded by weathered stone pillars. Each pillar was covered with thousands of carved names: English, Spanish, French, Dutch, Portuguese, even languages no one could recognize. Professor Carter carefully brushed moss away from one section. His face turned white. "What is it?" Harper asked. Without speaking, Carter pointed. There, freshly carved into the stone, was Lieutenant Samuel Harper's full name, along with today's date. Harper stepped backward. "That's impossible!" No one laughed. No one offered an explanation, because beside Harper's name were the names of every member of the expedition, already carved, as though the island had known they were coming long before they ever left Virginia. Then they found the village. Hidden behind towering cedar trees stood dozens of stone houses. Smoke drifted from chimneys. Fresh bread sat cooling beside open windows. Water boiled over cooking fires. Doors swung gently in the breeze. Everything suggested people had been there only moments earlier, yet the village was completely empty. Inside one house, the team found children's toys scattered across the floor. A dinner table remained fully prepared. Candles still burned. Clocks still ticked, yet there wasn't a single human being anywhere. Only silence. One photographer entered a bedroom. Seconds later, he shouted. Everyone rushed inside. Covering one wall were hundreds of portraits. Every painting showed different people from different centuries. Some wore colonial clothing. Others wore Civil War uniforms. Some appeared modern. One portrait stopped everyone cold. It showed the entire expedition, standing exactly where they were now. Even Harper, even Carter. The painting looked decades old. The date written beneath it read 1907, 40 years before the expedition had even arrived. Harper ripped the portrait from the wall. The canvas crumbled into dust the moment it touched the floor. Outside, the weather suddenly changed. Dark clouds rolled over the island within seconds. The wind returned. Trees groaned. Then the church bell rang. One loud, deep, ancient note. Professor Carter froze. "No." "What?" "We have to leave. Now." Before anyone could move, voices echoed through the empty village, not from one direction, from everywhere. Children laughing, women singing, men talking, thousands of invisible conversations surrounding them. The empty houses suddenly sounded full of life. One crewman looked toward a nearby doorway. His eyes widened. "My wife!" He dropped his equipment and began running. Harper chased after him, but as the sailor crossed the doorway, he disappeared. Not behind the door, not into the house, he simply vanished. Harper rushed inside. The building was empty. No windows, no hidden exits, only cold stone walls. The sailor was gone. Another crewman screamed from outside. A second man had vanished near the village well. Then a third disappeared while standing beside one of the statues. Panic exploded across the expedition. The island wasn't hunting them, it was separating them, one by one by one. Professor Carter grabbed Harper by the shoulders. "Forget the equipment, forget the samples. If we don't reach the beach before sunset, we will never remember why we wanted to leave." Harper looked back toward the forest. Between the trees, dozens of smiling figures had appeared again, watching, waiting, not chasing them, because they already knew. The island had begun taking the one thing every human needs to escape: their memories.
Lieutenant Samuel Harper had survived storms, war games, and dangerous rescue missions, but nothing had prepared him for what was happening now. His team wasn't simply disappearing, they were forgetting. As Harper and Professor William Carter sprinted through the abandoned village toward the beach, Harper suddenly stopped. "Why are we running?" Carter stared at him in horror. "You've already forgotten." Harper frowned. "Forgotten what?" "The ship, our mission, America, everything outside this island." For a terrifying moment, Harper honestly couldn't remember why he had arrived. The island suddenly felt familiar, comfortable, safe. The forest no longer seemed threatening. Instead, it felt like home. Then Carter pulled a small notebook from his pocket. Inside, written in thick black pencil, were only 4 words: "Do not trust your thoughts." Harper blinked. Instantly, fragments of memory rushed back. The ship, the ocean, the missing crew, the strange statues. The island wasn't changing reality. It was rewriting memory. That was its true power. As long as visitors remained on the island, their memories slowly dissolved, replacing fear with comfort. Eventually, they forgot their names, their families, their past, and finally, they forgot they had ever come from somewhere else. No prison was necessary, no chains, no guards. The prisoners simply stopped wanting to leave. The deeper the team moved into the forest, the stranger the island became. Ancient stone roads stretched beneath enormous trees that should have been impossible for the Atlantic coast. The trunks were hundreds of feet wide. Some looked older than recorded human history. Professor Carter knelt beside one exposed root. Hidden beneath the soil was carved stone, not natural rock. Architecture. The entire forest wasn't growing on the island. It was growing over something enormous. Hours later, they discovered the entrance. A staircase descended beneath the earth through a cracked stone archway covered in symbols that matched those found along the shoreline. Cold air drifted upward. Harper lit a lantern. Against Carter's advice, they descended. The tunnel seemed endless. Its walls were perfectly smooth, as though carved by advanced tools thousands of years before modern civilization. Then the passage opened into a chamber so vast that the lantern couldn't illuminate its ceiling. Hundreds, no, thousands of human statues filled the room. Every statue looked astonishingly realistic. Different races, different centuries, different clothing.
Some wore pirate coats, others military uniforms, others modern jackets and jeans. Each statue stood frozen mid-motion, one reaching outward, another shielding a child, another attempting to run. Professor Carter approached one carefully. He touched its hand. It wasn't stone. It only looked like stone. It felt almost human. Nearby, they found shelves carved into the walls. Resting upon them were journals, maps, compasses, photographs, rusted rifles, wedding rings, children's shoes. Thousands of personal belongings collected over centuries. Every object belonged to someone who had never returned. Harper slowly opened a weathered journal dated 1813. The final entry read, "I can no longer remember my mother's face. Tomorrow I may forget my own. If anyone finds this, leave while you still remember the word home." Harper closed the journal without speaking. Then Carter noticed something impossible. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous circular mirror nearly 20 feet tall, except it reflected nothing. No lantern, no walls, no people, only darkness. The moment Harper stepped closer, voices filled his mind. Not frightening voices, comforting ones. His mother's laughter, his younger brother calling his name, his childhood home, every beautiful memory he had ever known. Then a single sentence echoed softly, "Stay, and you'll never lose them again." Harper instinctively reached toward the mirror. Professor Carter tackled him to the ground. "Don't!" The mirror cracked with a deafening sound. A wave of invisible force exploded through the chamber. Every statue seemed to inhale at once. The entire island began shaking violently. Outside, the church bell rang again, this time without stopping. The expedition raced back toward the surface, but when they reached the village, it was no longer empty. All the missing crew members stood silently in the streets, including those who had vanished aboard the ship, including the sailor who disappeared during the night watch. Even stranger, they looked happy, peaceful. Their eyes contained no fear, only acceptance. One sailor smiled warmly. "Why are you trying to leave?" Another whispered, "Everything you ever wanted is here." A third simply asked, "Do you even remember who you were?" Harper opened his mouth and realized he didn't, not completely. His own memories were fading again. He struggled to remember America's flag, his hometown, his father's face. Even the ocean seemed like a distant dream. Professor Carter handed him the notebook once more. Across every page he had written reminders. "Your name is Samuel Harper. You live in Virginia. Today is Tuesday." Harper forced himself to keep reading while they ran. Each sentence pulled another memory back, but many were already gone forever. As they reached the shoreline, their ship was still waiting. The engines had mysteriously started on their own. Only 3 crew members remained. The others never returned. No bodies, no screams. Only silence. As the survivors pushed away from shore, every smiling figure gathered along the beach. None attempted to stop them. Instead, they waved goodbye. The fog swallowed the island within seconds. When it finally cleared, there was nothing. Only open Atlantic Ocean. No land, no cliffs, no trees. Nothing had ever been there. Months later, Lieutenant Harper submitted a classified report to the U.S. Navy. Military officials dismissed much of it as psychological trauma. The island could not be located again. Every search failed. Professor Carter spent the rest of his life studying ancient civilizations, convinced that the island had existed long before recorded history. He believed it was not built by one nation or one culture. It was something humanity had inherited without ever understanding. Harper never fully recovered. Friends noticed he constantly carried the small notebook wherever he went. Several pages were added over the years. Eventually, they contained simple reminders such as, "You are Samuel Harper. You live in Virginia. Today is Tuesday." No doctor could explain why his memory continued fading decades after leaving the island. After Harper's death, his notebook was donated anonymously to a historical archive. Tucked inside the final page was a faded photograph that investigators insisted had been impossible. It showed the entire 1947 expedition standing together on the island. Every missing sailor smiled at the camera. Every member appeared perfectly healthy. But there was one detail no one could explain. Standing quietly in the back row, smiling just like everyone else, was the photographer who developed the picture in Virginia. According to official records, he had never been on the expedition. To this day, sailors along parts of the Ambergull Atlantic coast still tell young captains the same warning before long voyages. If the sea suddenly becomes silent, if the birds disappear, if strange golden lights begin floating across the water, turn your ship around immediately. Because, according to the oldest maritime legend, the island of no return doesn't wait for people to discover it. It chooses the people it wants to remember. And once the island remembers your name, you may leave its shores, but a part of you never truly comes home. The greatest prisons are not built from stone or iron. They are built by forgetting who we are. History matters because memory